think that's how we say it. Welcome to Buckets. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by Bryan Fonseca, the Heat sympathizer, and Sean Little, a.k.a. at Chicago Flow. And this is your best bets episode for Wednesday in the NBA play-in tournament for April 17th. We will get you best bets and analysis for Heat versus Sixers and Hawks versus Bulls. If you haven't, you should check the feed. If you're just like, oh, there's a new episode of Buckets, I'll listen to it, and this is what you listen to. 1, thank you for listening. 2, check back. Whole bunch of shit. We have so much stuff. Okay. We have Brandon and I have best bets episodes up on 4, 5, and 3 6s. Tomorrow we will have, you're listening to this on Wednesday. On Thursday, we'll have the 2 7s up based off of the outcomes of the games we're going to talk about on this show. We'll have the 2 7 analysis series, but best bets in that show. On Friday, we're going to have game 1 best bets from as many folks as I can schedule. I'm getting as many of the Buckets contributors in, and we're going to do a quick hitter, just get you those best bets to get you set for the weekend with the 8 games, the double quadruple header, the octuple header on the weekend. And because I love you, I'm also going to get series best bets from all of our contributors too. So you're going to be able, if you're just like, okay, but like Matt and Brandon talked for like an hour, but I really kind of would rather just hear Jay Money tell me who he's betting in Sixers Pacers or whatever, or Sixers Knicks. You're going to get that, right? You're going to get his best bets. You'll get Brian's best bets, Sean's best bets. We're going to get a bunch of people in there. And on Friday night, we'll do the series previews 1-8. Brandon and I, right after the games, are going to do the breakdowns of the 1-8s in both conferences. So you're going to have best bets and series previews on all the series. We're going to have all of those. There'll be prop best bets in the series picks too, I'm sure, from Joe Dolera and Jim Turvey, who we're talking to tomorrow. Those bets are available up on BetMGM. By the way, I should let you know that. You should go look at those right now. The Action folks have absolutely hammered the Jokic lines on threes and points. Jokic is already way up. Most of the value is gone, but you should go look at those because we were surprised that many of the figures were based off of regular season averages instead of what you would expect for the playoffs. So you should go look at those right now. Programming note, you're listening to this on Wednesday at 5 Eastern. We have Action Island at youtube.com/the Action Network. On Wednesday night, after Sixers Heat, during Bulls Hawks, we're doing Buckets Live. We're going to react to Sixers Heat, get reactions to that with Joe Dolera and Jim Turvey, and they're going to give me their game 1 best bets. That's on tomorrow night's Live Buckets. If you're wondering why we're going live during Bulls Hawks, it's because it's fucking Bulls Hawks. So that's what we're going to do. This show, however, is about best bets for the Wednesday slate, including Bulls Hawks. Sean Little, what is your best bet on the Wednesday slate?
Chicago Bulls -3.
Okay, you're going to make me talk about this game. Okay, I thought we were friends. I thought we had like a good thing going, but you're going to make me talk about this game. Bryan Fonseca, what's your best bet for Wednesday?
I got Tyrese Maxey over 23.5 and Joel Embiid under 30.5 points.
Okay. I'm going to take the over in Heat Sixers at 207.5. I'm going to take the under in Hawks Bulls 221.5. And I'm going to sprinkle a little dusting, just a little salt on top, just to make the meal tasty, on Heat money line.
Oh my God.
That's what we're gonna do.
Oh my God.
That's what we're gonna do. All right, let's start. Look, I'm gonna make you wait for the game that you came here for. Sean Little, you're taking the Chicago Bulls on the spread here. This game makes me sad. Just makes me all sorts of sad, but it will be a competitive game. It will be a competitive game. Very good chances ends up in clutch time because that's basically where the Bulls live. They live in a margin between 5 and -5. That's exactly where they exist. Why do you like Chicago to get it done and advance to Friday's game?
Well, I could just say Javonte Green's now in the fold and just end the cap there, but I'll add a little more context for everybody that's out there that doesn't know about Javonte Green's game, because I just saw Brian's face and that was so disrespectful to
What?
Javonte
I
Green.
like Javonte Green. I
Okay,
like
thank
Javonte
you.
Green.
I just had
I
to get
actually,
confident.
when I was at Basketball News, I wrote a story about how like there are people who should be considered most improved player candidates but never will, and he was in my top 5. This was a couple seasons ago, though.
Yeah, criminal that he wasn't in the league until the last couple of weeks. But the reason I'm back in the Bulls here is because I was very impressed with how they closed the regular season. 3 straight road games, 3 straight covers. I was in the building versus the Knicks. Whoever had the info that the Knicks or the Knicks were going to end up playing the Chicago Bulls full starters for the entire game as if it was the play-in already. Salute to you for taking 15 points and absolutely just chilling out and sipping on hopefully a little cerveza, since we're speaking Spanish here, Matt Moore, and just cash the ticket comfortably. But I was really impressed with how they played coming down the stretch. And I'm not a big fan of what the Atlanta Hawks are all about and how they close the year. They only covered like 1 of their last 8 games coming down the stretch. Also, in the head-to-head matchup, Bulls lead 2-1. The only game they did lose was recently, and that was when Trae Young was not in the fold. With Trae Young in the fold, the Bulls got 2 wins and locked up Trae Young pretty good. He struggles from 3 in both and from the field. He just struggled offensively, and since he's come back, he hasn't really impressed me too much. Before we hopped on, Bryan and I were talking and going through, and he said, "Yeah, Trae Young does scare me a little bit in a 1-game type sample size, but I like Chicago at home in this spot. They got 3 full days off. They're now going to come in and play probably, as Matt laid out, uh, a crunch time game in that last 5 minutes, and I like them and DeMar DeRozan at the house to get it done. I don't trust the Atlanta Hawks, and I don't trust the Chicago Bulls. So, but against the Atlanta Hawks, I do trust the Chicago Bulls. So I'll lay the 3 in this spot. I think they get it done. I was leaning Philadelphia as well, but I think that number is starting to creep up into spooky land. So I like the Bulls as my best bet tomorrow, -3.
Would you like this more or less if Trae Young was not playing?
I would like this a lot less if Trae Young was not playing. If DeJounte Murray was the full-time trigger man and the decision maker every single time up the floor, I would like Atlanta a lot more than I do. Trying to jam Trae. Listen, the Atlanta Hawks played their best basketball when DeJounte Murray was the trigger man. We've seen for years now what the team is with Trae Young being that focal point. Now we saw it in this season. We saw it early on in the year. Then they removed him. We saw the team get way better, and then they're going to try to jam him down everybody's throat here coming down the stretch and expect that to work out. I'm all about the Bulls and how they've been playing coming down the stretch. A team that I've said a lot of negative things about the organization and the team overall and Billy Donovan and et cetera, but that team has continued to stay and show a lot of effort coming down the stretch. That's why I like the Bulls.
Okay.
And like this is what this is all about. This is what the Bulls are about. Get the 9, get into the playoffs, get a play-in game, 1 play-in game, then lose the next play-in game, be out of the playoffs. But they get Jerry Reinsdorf a home game. They get him a little extra coin. This is where the Bulls live. This is the Bulls right here. This is a perfect opportunity for them to get a win, lie to everyone in the fan base, and say, "See, we beat the Hawks in the play-in, and we lost." You know what would have happened is if just Embiid came back, so we had to bump into him, or like the Heat or the Heat. So we'll see you guys next year.
Yeah,
So
tough lie. We ran into the Eastern Conference champions defending,
right.
and
What do you
the
want us to
Philly
do?
and Philly. It wasn't our fault.
Well, what can we do?
What
We
can we do?
We pushed it as far as we could. I don't understand. What do you guys want from us?
We should have played the Pacers or Magic. It's not our fault.
Yeah, simple.
I envision Jerry Reinsdorf coming in and giving a fiery, passionate speech about how they need to get him his gate revenue for 1 more game. Just like
ASAP.
passionate. Like, there comes a time, boys, when you have to rally together to make sure that I make 1 more night's worth of gate from this dilapidated building that we're still playing in.
Yep.
Like, just it's It's the stuff that sports dreams. When they make movies, that's going to be the very like powerful speech about the season, about the Bulls. Is Jerry Reinsdorf's speech about how they need to make sure that he gets one more night
Yeah.
of gate revenue.
And one last point, DeMar DeRozan, if the game is tight, which we expect it to be, I trust DeMar DeRozan to be able to lead the way and get it done in crunch time minutes. That's kind of the trump card here for the Bulls in this spot. Caruso doing everything that needs to be done defensively, locking up whoever needs to be locked up, and DeMar DeRozan offensively being able to close it out.
I'll say I lean Hawks, but there's no situation in which I'm going to bet Hawks. Raheem Palmer, that's like his favorite bet of like this whole week is he loves Hawks. And like I'm on a text thread with him and Brandon, with Brandon and I being like, but why? But why, Ra? Why would you like the Hawks? So we'll see what happens here. I'm gonna take the under. This is mostly so I looked this up. Last 2 seasons in the play-in tournament, under is 6-3. So we've got this like really strong trend towards unders in the play-in tournament, which makes sense. Hawks obviously not a great defense. But the Bulls actually can defend a little bit, not a lot, but like a little bit. And I just kind of wind up looking at these numbers and being like, you know what? I think this is going to be an ugly, grinded out game. It's 221.5. I think this is going to land just under. I think we're looking at like, we're probably looking at like 107, 111, something in there. And so I'm willing to go ahead and do it. Model does like Hawks. Again, I just can't bet that because I respect myself. Or allegedly I do. Bryan Fonseca, you've got prop plays because you're a coward. I cannot believe you're not on. I am disgusted with
We're
you
gonna
for not
talk
being
it
on
out.
Heat,
We're
on
gonna
Heat
talk.
money line, sir.
We're gonna.
What I did not bring you on. I didn't specifically make sure that you were on this show for you not to take Heat money line, sir.
We'll get to it, but let me break down these props real quick first,
right.
because there's clearly something I'm seeing here, given that Tyrese Maxey over 23.5 and Joel Embiid under 30.5. Now you talked about props that have adjusted for the playoffs. Joel Embiid at 30.5 was interesting to me, considering he's done this in the playoffs approximately 14 times in 53 attempts, and I consider this a playoff game. I know it's the play-in, but whatever. This is going to be a playoff atmosphere. He doesn't get 30.5 against Bam. And even the last game where he did go over 26.5, I thought he'd go under. He ended up at 29. It was really after a great first half. And then after that, they kind of went on a run without him. That was Tyrese Maxey led. Tyrese Maxey is the one who really gives the Heat problems. He's gone over 23.5 in 4 of his last 5 against his team. Embiid has 2 30-point career games against Bam, just 2. And that's in 13 games if you're counting just the games where Bam became a starter at the tail end of the 2018-19 season, where they were like, all right, enough of Hassan Whiteside. We're going to give this Bam guy a shot. And it's worked out pretty well ever since. So Joel Embiid at 30.5 in a 1-game sample, yeah, I could see with the season that he's having, and the Sixers are really good with him and all these different things, but he does not do that against Bam in the playoffs. Like, he just doesn't. The most that he got in the playoffs in that series that they had in 2022 against Miami was 24. He wasn't effectively great that series. Now, people will say he was recovering from injury, but this time of year, he's always kind of recovering from injuries. So, like, I don't know to what degree we can use that excuse or whatever the case may be. But ultimately, I think the way this game trends is Tyrese Maxey is probably going to, if he's hitting his shots, he's going to be the one to have a big night. And Joel Embiid could have a really good game. 30.5, though. It's just a lot of points considering the command that he's going to have, particularly with Bam Adebayo there in the middle.
This is a good test for Joel, right? In terms of both his health and is he better? Like, he looked better this season. He looked, this is the best, before he got hurt, this was the best season I've ever seen him play. He was so dominant and he was so in control and he was handling things better. Like, he looks like a more evolved version of the same player. And this is a great test to see whether he can or not, because Bam's done extremely well against him. He's just had the edge on him consistently. Bam's record against Joel is excellent. He has won most of those matchups. It was a big reason why I was on the Heat in 2022 versus the Sixers. Sixers were the public side and the favorite, even though the Heat were not the 1 seed. And I was like, that's crazy. That's absurd. And did very well in that series, basically just backing the Heat's ability with Bam to disrupt Joel. But look, like I think Joel's a different kind of monster. A lot of it just depends on the whistle they get, right? Like what kind of whistle does he get? If he's able to draw fouls, this is going to get away from them in a hurry. If Joel gets a regular season whistle, I don't know that the Heat can win this game because Joel's just going to keep drawing fouls. And if Bam gets in foul trouble, good night, nurse. Like poor Thomas Bryant's going to get a rat. Or would they try a small ball with Jovic? Is that a thing?
No, Kevin Love may play.
Okay.
Terry Rozier, to my knowledge, is the only one who's confirmed out.
Okay.
He's not going to play. Kevin Love, I mean, you throw Kevin Love and see what he could do, basically.
Okay. What's your other prop?
Those two. Embiid under 30.5, Tyrese Maxey over 23.5, and I'm probably going to take Heat plus 5.5.
Okay. Don't take
We're threading the needle, baby.
I'm probably going to take because look, as much as I keep staring at this game, right? There's a lot of reasons to go in either direction. But ultimately what I come back to is excuse me, even though the Heat were the 8th seed right now, they're a 46-win team, which is actually better than last year. Quietly 24-17 on the road, second in the Eastern Conference. They cover better than anyone in the Eastern Conference on the road as an underdog. And it's like, I know the Sixers are supposed to win this game and everybody's very high on the Sixers and they're supposed to make this run. And honestly, because of Giannis Antetokounmpo's injury, you kind of look around the East and you're like, the Sixers should be the dark horse here. Like, they have the most compelling case to do that. But Miami is a team where I've said, I'll be late to their funeral. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, they're done until I absolutely see it. Now, Jimmy Butler hasn't shown me as many flashes of Jimmy Butler shit this year as he did last year, but they're still there occasionally, just not very often. And it looks like we could be seeing the beginning of the decline a little bit on some nights, which is why it's interesting that he's making all the media appearances, because it feels like somebody trying to cash out before it really goes south. However, I can't bet against them. So to me, it's like I'm either taking the Heat plus 5.5 and living with the results, or I'm not doing anything at all, because the Sixers, while I acknowledge this is a better team than we've seen, 31-8 with Joel Embiid healthy this year, I don't see why I have to trust them in this spot.
This is the thing about, I guess, sports betting and in general and just trying to get out in front of things. I get the being late to Miami's funeral, but the money is going to be being early and deciding and that you're going to take a stand against Spo and the Miami Heat and what they have put on paper essentially the last 2 full seasons. They've put a lot of bullshit on the floor in 2 full regular seasons, and then in a window in the playoffs just shot the leather off the basketball, right? And we saw that last year, and a lot of us here at Action made a lot of money fading those guys against Denver in 5 games or whatever angle you took to get money down on Denver, you made out pretty well. Now, overall, I think now is the time to fade the Miami Heat. I think Philly gets the W here. Anytime you try to fade Joel Embiid, it's always going to get spooky because I think him having a bad game is scoring 27, right? So you're going to be in a spot where you're hoping that, he doesn't get to the line as frequently like Matt laid out. But yeah, I'm down on the Miami Heat overall. I think if they do end up getting that 8 slot, I like Philly in the game. The as I mentioned prior, the 5.5 is starting to push a little bit of a spooky number to me. But Embiid has had trouble with Bam. Maxey is kind of. Do you think, Bryan, that they just run the offense through Maxey and he's able to carry them? Because I don't see that. Right? Is it just one of those games where Embiid scores 27 and then Maxey scores 30 plus and they get a short win? I think that's the only way we thread the needle on all 3 of these plays, right?
If that happens, then it's over for like the Heat. That's what killed them the last time. And granted, like it was a close game when they played in Miami last time. But what really killed them was Jimmy and Bam didn't really show up, and Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey did. That happens again, you're done. Like, and that's just fundamental playoff basketball. Their stars show up, these stars don't. the stars who show up, they're going to win the game. And I think with Tyrese Maxey, if they're going to like run offense through him, like the Heat, I actually think this Heat team is better than the Heat team from last year in terms of like some of the guys that they have. Like I know Gabe Vincent and Max Strus were losses, but like, I mean, Terry Rozier, who's not going to play in this game, which is sneaky big, is better than those guys. Like Duncan Robinson, this version of him, and it looks like he may play, is better than what he was last year and is giving you more. Like they're and Nikola Jovic also is different than what they had before. Caleb Martin, kind of unsteady, but like for the most part, this is a better and deeper team. But Jimmy hasn't been as good. So that's where it's like, for me, it's like betting against Joel Embiid is spooky. Betting against Jimmy Butler in this scenario is spooky also. So it's like, I kind of need to see him completely fall off first. Like I said in the tweet yesterday, it's like, if you get playoff Jimmy, the Heat are going to win. If you get jump past Jimmy, the Sixers are going to win. It's really that simple to me.
And like, I don't know what to do with Jimmy right now, because it's like he's at the U.S. Open. He's given them nothing the last 2 weeks. And then he does this Slam interview, which is basically like a wrestling promo, being like, "We're coming for you." Like, and so now like Jimmy's in my head, and I'm like, "Fuck, is the zombie Heat coming again? Is this going to happen again?" I don't want the spread. I only want the money line. And the reason is very simple, where if I'm going to do this, I want to go all the way. I don't want to be like, well, based off of the number and the model and like the projections of the spread. No, fuck it. Like, Heat are either going to win this game or get blown out by 30. Like, that's the only two outcomes for me in this game, is either the Heat are winning this game or they are going to get run off of the floor. And this is a big moment for Philly. And here's the thing. You can't sit here and be like, well, Matt, you're a Philly hater. Like, I am leveraged on Sixers futures. I need them to get into the playoffs, and I especially need them to get into the playoffs, which does not involve the Boston fucking Celtics. However, so this is a little bit of like, if they get in, I'm in a pretty good spot here, but also it really is just like, look, the thing I've tried to explain is when we talk about the Miami Heat voodoo or the zombie Heat or any of these other things, it's this. Their ability in single game environments to drag you into the type of game that they want to play is excellent. It would not shock me to see Sixers up 12 at half. Sixers rolling. It gets to 18 in the third quarter. And everybody starts just like chattering on Twitter. Announcers are talking about the Sixers playing the Knicks. And then like, oh, third quarter. Oh, well, they got it back down to they got it back down to 11. But, Sixers still in control. Yeah, what, Sean?
Yes, see, well, that's where I kind of disagree with you.
Okay.
I think the one game thing for Miami is bad news. The 7-game series where Spo gets to get in the lab and think about all these different scenarios and things that he can do and matchups that he can change, that's when shit starts to get really spooky, when every single game they come out and Miami's throwing different things at you, and then they start knocking down shots. People start to panic. That's what happened throughout the playoffs last year. Milwaukee went down a couple games without Giannis on the floor. Drew Holiday is getting cooked. Next thing you know, they're out of there. The series is done and dusted. And then that's exactly what happened when we talk about the Boston Celtics. They just wore those guys down mentally, grinded them away. Then Spo coached circles around Missoula, and then you looked up and it was done. The one game I think is where you can clip them. The 7-game series where you let Spo and the gang sit there and drink coffee and break down tape and figure out how they're going to slow up guys is where stuff gets spooky.
Since 2020, in elimination games, Jimmy's 3-4. That's really good because you're supposed to lose most of those. He's also really good in those spots. I will say, like, here are the numbers on Bam versus Jimmy. In the regular season, Bam is 9-4. They've only played 13 times. 9-4. Bam's actually 2-5 in the playoffs because they met in 2018 when Bam was like, he was playing 15 minutes a game. Like, he was just coming into his own. But in the 2022 series, Embiid missed 2 of those games, so they're 2-2 in the playoffs. So overall, if we move like since 2020, it's something like it's like 9-2 is the record for Bam Adebayo versus Embiid. Again, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm not super confident in this pick. I'm not going to like oh yeah, smash it. It's like okay, I'm going to play like a little bit. I do like the over here. It's 207.5. Rozier being out definitely hurts, but Duncan Robinson being into me is like a big deal here because Duncan's played phenomenal, not just as a shooter. Like that's how everyone knows Duncan Robinson. If you haven't caught a lot of Heat games this year, Duncan, because they make you want to tear your eyes out, which I completely understand. Duncan Robinson plays phenomenal this year. He has been like I would have given him very serious consideration for most improved player. That's how good he's been. The stats are not going to back that up, but like impact and what he's done, he's like a multi-level player now where it's like he slips to the basket and scores layups and is able to create off of the bounce to be able to catch and make plays for others, relocate and then hit threes. Like Duncan's been amazing. He's been such a better player than Jimmy Butler relative to standards. I'm sorry, Bryan. He has been.
No,
like
it's
Jimmy's
funny.
been.
I get what you're saying. Like, listen, he's hitting cutters with perfect bounce passes. He's actually doing things off the dribble. You know what I mean? Like, you get to see athleticism every now and again, which is crazy.
And he's talking shit too.
Yeah.
Multiple occasions I've seen him chirping, and what that means to me is that he's confident where he's at. He feels like he belongs. Maybe over the last couple of years, that's just grown and grown and grown. And
also,
Duncan has just been really good. Yeah,
we've had the Tyler Hero discussion a million times, and my thoughts on him have been very clear. This is like this is the one game I want Tyler Hero in. I don't want him for a series. I don't want him in the playoffs. No thanks. I'm good. But Joel's gonna play a pretty deep drop here. He's gotten much better at playing a mid-level drop. So like when you're dropping in pick and roll, you can drop high, which means you just take like one step back off the pick to contain. The Clippers do a lot of that. You can do a deep drop, which is like your ass is all the way back under the basket. That's like Brook Lopez, Rudy Gobert in most situations. Rudy's doing a little bit more high this year. Or you can do like a mid-level, and he's been really good in the mid-level. Embiid has before he got hurt, but because of his injury, he's playing. I've watched, like he's playing way, way back. Which means if Tyler can get a good screen, Tyler's going to have pull-up J's, and that's where Tyler can eat. Like, that's like the one shot, and those are really important. That's how Tyler was so impactful in that 2020 playoff run, is he ate the Bucks alive with 2 dribble pull-ups off of that screen. So, like, that's a tactical advantage here. I will sprinkle on Heat money line, but I am going to bet the over in this one. Because either outcome, the outcomes here for me are the Heat. All of a sudden, it's like, I don't know how, but the Heat scored 115 points when they've averaged like what feels like 86 for the last 2 months, or the Sixers are going to drop like 130 on them. Like that to me, again, if you want to get creative here, and I don't recommend it, but I don't hate the idea of being like Heat money line, alt Sixers line, because I don't think this game is going to be close. I don't think it's going to be clutch. I don't think it's going to be tight. It's going to tilt one way or the other. I don't find this game likely to land. Let me put it this way. I have zero confidence that this is going to be a Sixers win by less than 5. That to me is like how I read it, but maybe I'm wrong. Heat do play a ton of clutch games, so that's entirely possible, but that's my
really quick. I want your guys' thoughts on this number I found earlier. I was just looking through some goofy stats. I did the NBA All Respect team instead of the All NBA team, and I was going through all these numbers. Jimmy Butler this year played in 60 games, 2,000 plus minutes. He only had 68 total fouls on the year. For a guy that, we know of as a defensive dude and he's willing to pick up anybody, 68 fouls in 60 games for someone that played 2,000 plus minutes was so low on the board compared to everyone else. To compare, Tyler Hero played 42 games. Hero played 42 games and played 1,400 minutes, 600 minutes less than Jimmy Butler, and had 63 fouls. So only 5 less. So I don't know what that means on like an effort thing or a defensive thing. I just thought it was really, really interesting that he's averaging like 1 point and change fouls a game.
The other thing pursuant to the fouls is on the other side. Jimmy, before the All-Star break, before we saw the officiating changes, was averaging 10 free throw attempts per game. He has averaged 7 since All-Star. And I've
And
listened. Hit me.
and he's actually talking back to referees, which he doesn't
Mhm.
typically do relative to most other stars.
Yeah.
Because like he's noticed that they're officiating him differently, and there's actually been a couple of instances where he'll look at the ref after, like, "Yo, you normally give me that call. Like, what's going on here?"
Yeah, the grift, the grift is up here for him. I think it'll be, like I said, the whistle I think is huge in this game. It's huge in any game. It's bigger here. If this is an ugly anything goes, you can be as physical as you want game, it tilts Miami. If it's a Miami's getting Jimmy's able to grift and he's getting to the free throw line and he's getting wing defenders in trouble, that tilts Miami. And if Embiid gets a regular season whistle, then he doesn't even have to, like, Embiid can win this game without the whistles. I want to be very clear on that. He's good enough to win without the whistles, but he's gotten them since he got back. Like, he's still gotten those calls. And I think that that's really significant. And if they get those calls, then the Sixers are going to roll in this game. All right, that's going to do it for buckets. We got best bets across the board. Sean Little likes Chicago -3. Bryan Fonseca likes Tyrese Maxey over points. Yes? I got that right? Remember that? Yes.
Maxey
And Joel Embiid
over,
under
Embiid
30
under.
and a half.
Yep.
I will take the over in Heat Sixers, the under in Bulls Hawks, and a little sprinkle on Heat money line. Just a little taste of Heat money line. I do have two New York guys here, though. So I got to ask, which of these teams does New York want to win this game?
They don't care, man. It's
Woo!
clear that they don't care. They'll play whoever shows up. I mean, I think that's been very obvious for all the teams that have been doing all the conspiracy theories that are jumping around that the Lakers aren't going to show up, and that, you know, the Cavs wasn't a conspiracy theory, right? We saw what happened with the Cavs. And to throw another conspiracy theory out there, maybe Miami throws this game so they can get Boston. maybe that's what they're trying to do. But I think overall the Knicks will be ready for whoever. I think it was clear when they went out and won and got the 2 that they were ready to play Philly, or they were ready to play Miami, or whoever came. So I don't really think it matters. They're ready to go. Yeah, I think that's the purest answer when it comes to the Knicks and the matchup.
Yeah, I don't think the Knicks have a preference. I do think that whoever wins this game, maybe it depends on how, but whoever wins this game is probably going to be a trendy, like, oh, they can be the 7 that knocks off 2, because the Knicks don't have Julius Randle, even though one of the under-discussed things is there may be some Ewing theory there. But we can get into that another time.
Yeah, we'll get to that on a series best bets. I will just say, if I'm Miami, I don't mind losing this game.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to beat the Celtics, but
I agree.
I think the difference, I think, with Miami, with them being an 8, is you're either going to do it again, and you're going to do it the exact same way you did it last year, knocking off a 1, and now all of a sudden, and if you do, like if they win game 1 in Boston, and there's going to be just fucking panic in Beantown, just absolute panic. There'll be sirens going off if the Heat go in and win that game 1.
The Heat are 9-3 in game 1s in the Jimmy Butler era.
Yeah. Or it's like, all right, we thought we had this team. We went to the finals. Boston absolutely shellacked us. They swept us. It's time for us to reconfigure. Like, you'll know one way or the other. A Knicks series, I think it gets a lot more messy and it's hard to figure out. All right, it's got to do it for buckets. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. My thanks to Hutton Jackson, the video crew. Congrats to Hutton Jackson, by the way, on his family news. You can check that out on Twitter. Congrats to Hutton. Thanks to him and his video crew getting this up on youtube.com/The Action Network. Action Island, Wednesday, 5 Eastern. Buckets live after Heat Sixers. Buckets series preview 2 7s on Thursdays. Game 1 best bets on Fridays. I have articles in the Action Network app. I'm never going to sleep again. I'll talk to you guys again next time. Thanks for joining me. Let's get buckets.